Mein Gapon, mein Gebiet. Mein Gapon, mein Gebiet. Hey, I have sound. Good morning, everyone. How are you doing today? That I was gonna do a walking live stream, and Cindy has a SSS payment that she needs to pay off a loan. Hey, I just got a notification I'm live. Cool. Hopefully, some of the other people will too. Uh, but she had an SSS payment, Social Security system payment here in Cebu that she needed to make to pay off a loan. She tr- she tried last year. Actually, last year, right about this time, she tried, and they accepted her contribution payments. Social Security system here is a little bit different than the Social Security in the U.S. You can actually make voluntary payments instead of having an employer pay. And so that way, when you retire, you do get a little bit of a stipend from them, even if you've never worked for a company that would give you Social Security benefits. Uh, I need to talk with Cindy to verify, but I don't think Social Security payments are mandatory for employers here. They might be, I don't know. But uh, too many people are like Papa that work their entire life for themselves. And so this is a way for them to be included in the Social Security system so that when they get older, like Papa, that he gets a small stipend from them each month. It's not much, but he never made very big payments either. Uh, and Cindy is maxing out what she can do every year so that when she gets older that she can get not a great stipend, but a little bit from them each month. And then she's also got my Social Security, and there's probably a pretty good chance with the time that we'll spend back in the States, she'll have a U.S. Social Security on top of that, on top of the Philippines SSS. Yes, I realize that in the U.S. she has to pick either mine or hers, whichever is better. That she makes enough more money than I did working. I really think it's going to be better for her to pick hers. And if I actually kick the bucket before Chana turns 18, I believe, she gets basically my disability. So, yeah, she should be pretty well set. It's it's kind of cool, but Social Security system here is more like what we think of a 401k. Because you can actually borrow money against your contributions, and that's what Cindy did years ago. I believe she did it a little bit before we met and were married, and that she owes a reasonable amount, not huge by any stretch. Uh, but this year now they've tacked a penalty on it that's about equivalent to the principal and interest uh, combined. So it basically doubled the amount that she owes. Well, which still isn't a huge amount, but it's a significant amount. So she's going to go down and try and argue and fuss with them and get them to accept. And she says she's got something from them that says they'll accept the principal only payment. And hey, good morning, David. How you doing today? I couldn't read the small. Oh, there it is, David. I think you're actually the first one to join us. I was going to try and do the walking live stream, but Cindy had to go down and make Social Security payments, so I'm kind of hanging out with Mama and Papa watching Chana. And then after live stream, I got to go help a friend of mine too. A person I know, a friend of mine, whatever. Anyways, that they're looking to go back to the U.S. as well, and are trying to get everything buttoned up and get all the necessary paperwork and all that good garbage corrected. But I guess they're actually looking to move back to the States, period. Be done with the Philippines. Uh, After a debt came through, that I guess it basically wiped out their house, and that it destroyed a lot of property of theirs. And they've talked about it and are going to try and move back to the States and just not come back to the Philippines, period. That they've got two younger kids. I'm not sure the exact ages. I think they're tweeners, that age range. 11 to 13, 11 to 15 range. But they're looking to go back and go to the States. And they've got a friend or a relative that's going to help them get settled over there. And so that they're abandoning the Philippines. It would cost them so much to rebuild their house and all that fun stuff that they're just not interested any longer. And he's one of them that kind of spun their wheels and just never. I don't want to say never acclimated, but never could get traction here. And that's what he tried to do. And he's tried to do it for a long time. That he's been here way longer than I thought he had. And just hasn't managed to establish himself. And that he's finally, no, it's not working. I'm done. Bye. And his wife agrees. And the kids are looking forward to it too. Neither one of them has ever been to the U.S. And so it's going to be a culture shock. It's going to be a culture change for them. That they've got a little bit of an idea. And I guess he's told them a little bit. And his relatives and stuff that are still in the States have told them a little bit about it. But it's the same as coming here. Knowing about it and living in it is two different things. I knew a lot about it, and I'd been here repeatedly. I had been here several times. But this last year and a half, and granted, the current circumstances, the situation, have made it a challenge in ways that I never would have expected, and have made for a lifestyle that I'm not terribly happy with. There's things we could have done different. There's a lot, and there's always hindsight. But yeah, David, you're right. Living in the Philippines is hard, and it's not for everyone. And he's living in a suburb of Cebu City, so they've got access to stuff, but they're still in the outskirts of the metro area. And one thing, the house that they've got, it's far enough out that they basically don't have internet. They've got data plan. That's it. That the trunk line stops a house or two before theirs, and it's just not strong enough to go back. Is where they're at, and they've had silly little things like that they've had to deal with, and it can get frustrating without question. And that's part of the reason why Cindy and I moved to Cebu City, is the internet connection. She was doing online work at that point, and there's one trunk line that heads south from Cebu City. And so if there's an interruption anywhere in that trunk line, everything south of that gets shut down. And so it wasn't uncommon for her to be offline for a day. And so we talked about it and we decided to move into Cebu City. And in the end, it was a right decision. And it was right after we moved into Cebu City that Cindy got pregnant. And then, it was definitely we needed to stay and wanted to stay in Cebu City to stay closer to doctors and not have a 2-hour trip every time we came in. Uh, and it's exactly like Monday. I was gonna try and get back to do a walking live stream, and we left at 7 o'clock. We left Sabunga. We went to Sabunga this weekend, and we left Sabunga at 7 o'clock on Tuesday morning. Yeah, we left Tuesday morning. I tried to get back Tuesday to do a live stream. I was going to try and do a walking live stream, but it took us 3.5 hours. It took us 3 hours and 20 minutes to get from Sabunga back to Cebu. And traffic was just so insane bad. And with her being pregnant, being bottled up in a car that long, it wouldn't have been practical or realistic. And so even with sunshine, it just wouldn't have been doable to live in the deep in the provinces like that with her being pregnant. So, that after we found out she was pregnant, that it cut any realistic desires to live in the provinces. You're gonna hang out a second. It's I really need to remember to close that door. David, we do plan on coming back to the Philippines regularly for the first few years. That the school systems in the U.S. currently are over the cliff, woke, and you've got school districts that are literally teaching kindergartners gender identity studies. And so we don't want that for China in any way, shape, or form. And several teachers we know have said that at this point they wouldn't choose to educate their kids in the U.S., especially in public schools. And a lot of the other school options that are affordable are the same situation. And so until China hits school age, we're going to be primarily based out of the U.S., coming back to the Philippines for a month or two every year. I've got the 13A, and I need to be in country sometime between January and February, the first 60 calendar days of the year, to do my annual reporting for my ACR card. So because of that, we'll come back January, February sometime for a month or two. And what we've talked about and what we've decided to do is when we do, we'll come probably to Cebu, let her run down and visit the family for a few days a week. I'll stay in Cebu, do my annual report, all that good rot. Part of the arrangements I've made with Rusi is that the gentleman that I'm selling it to will, as long as it's still up and running, that he'll let me take it for the time we're here. And so I'll pick up Rusi, get with him, and get with a few people I've met and build a little bit of relationship with. And then head out to Dumaguete, Bacolod, Iloilo, Panglao, head out to a few different places and stay there for the remainder of the time. And just get an Airbnb or something like that. And there's a good chance, there's a really good chance that we'll probably bring Mama Papa with us. And that way, Cindy, Mama Papa, and Chana can travel wherever we're going to be going and just check out a few different areas and see how we like living there. And one of them is going to be, what kind of schools do they have? That's going to be a huge thing that we're going to look at over the next few years. But that also is part of the reason why we plan on going to a larger city, like I say, Dumaguete, possibly Panglau would be the smallest place that we'd look to go to. And each of those, I do know have okay school systems. I know a few expats that have kids in the school systems there. Dumaguete's got the Fil-Am University, and universities here typically have elementary and high schools, and so you can go through Fil-Am University. You can literally go from kindergarten to doctorate and never leave Fil-Am. So there's those options in some of the smaller cities. In any of the bigger cities, there's a lot of education options, and we've talked about when the time is right and if the time is right, getting a condo here in Cebu City that we can come back to periodically to do things that need to be done in Cebu. My age and health are getting there. That there may come a time where I need to be in Cebu for medical reasons. There may come a time where Chana wants to come to a better school here. I don't know. But we've kind of talked about getting the possibility of getting a condo here to come to intermittently, not to home base out of. But long answer on your question is, yeah, David, we'll spend the next few years coming back on holidays and scoping it out for a move, and realizing that in 5 years, circumstances may change dramatically, both in the Philippines and in the U.S. I don't necessarily see, you're talking about schools here in the Philippines. I don't necessarily see a bad thing with that. That when I was even in grade school, that we had a fair amount of homework we were expected to do. And, in the grade school levels, uh, building the foundations, it's not a bad thing. And I do expect to have, for them to have some learning in addition to what goes on at school. Whether it's just study for, vocabulary lists and stuff like that. Because that was one thing that kind of shocked me and bewildered me is in high school and junior high, or in grade school and junior high, my son never had homework. And that was something that really surprised me. And in hindsight, should have tipped me off a little bit better that the education isn't quite what I expected it to be. It's definitely not what I remembered as the learning that we got. Yeah, that much is a bit excessive. Uh, if they're handing out that much, now your stepdaughter, that would have been grade school, correct? At that age, that every night that would have been a little excessive. Uh, that would have needed to have been checked out and looked into a lot heavier because by what I'm talking about with homework, that it may have been in third to fifth, third to sixth grade, the upper end of grade school, we may have gotten 20 minutes, an hour worth of homework a night. Learning, writing your vocabulary words, doing some extra math problems and stuff like that. Uh, but yeah, it wasn't a couple hours worth of homework in grade school. By high school, that there was enough homework that if you chose to do it, it could take you, a couple hours. Uh, and but by that point, they were kind of prepping you for college anyhow. And in college, yeah, you're going to have probably 2 hours outside of the class for every hour you're in class, and that's cramming a lot of learning in. But like I say, in the early '80s, when I was in high school, it was a good couple hours a night we had homework. And the students that are willing to sit down and do that are typically the ones that do excel. Uh, we are going to greatly encourage Chana to do that, but we're not going to force her to be that studious. That's something either you need to develop the desire to do it, or it's never going to work well for you. And that's part of the problem with giving that kind of schooling. That for some kids that they're able to do that and excel. For others that no, that they're never going to excel at that. And even if they do spend that kind of time, it's never going to be. They're never going to excel. That they're going to they're going to be in that bottom half of the class. And for some of those kids, yeah, it's a really bad situation. That when I was at school, by the time you went to high school, you basically followed two different tracks. One you were going into trades, one you were going into college. And the guys that did trade schools, that were going into trades and did that route, that they didn't have anywhere near the homework. They may have had a couple hours a week worth of homework, but it was nowhere near what the ones that were doing the college prep and going that direction would get. By junior high back in the States, that you were starting to get that separation, but at grade school, everybody was getting the same program. But like I say, even in grade school, that you had homework, but it was maybe 20 minutes, an hour a night. And that's just it. There are some kids that are great at that, and they excel, and that they need that kind of learning environment. There are some kids that my son was one that he just couldn't. He had some reading issues, and he had a slight learning disability. And no matter how hard he fought and tried, he was not going to excel like that. And we did. We got him in an automotive shop program and stuff, and he excelled a little bit better at that. But when he graduated, the ex and I made way too much money for him to get any kind of help going to school. And unfortunately, the special services that he got because of the learning disability did not encourage study habits or anything like that, and they just kept on letting him slide. And so he never developed good study or work habits. And it was right as he graduated that the ex and I split up. So I tried to get him into a vocational program that was income based that he should have qualified for, but for various reasons didn't. Uh, but he wanted being a warehouseman and is doing okay with that. Uh, yeah, teachers didn't. I was kind of hopeless at school too. That I never realized it until later in life. I was well into my 30s before I was actually diagnosed with it. That I've got a learning disability that explained a ton of what I dealt with and what I went through at school. Uh, Teachers just did not know how to deal with me. Uh, and because of that, and because of some issues that I had in grade school, uh, I never developed a desire for schooling. Yet, when I'd sit down to the tests, I'd do outstandingly well, and they didn't know what to do. That I want to be a lost cause for them. That yeah, ditching school, especially in high school, was more of a enjoyment for me than anything else. Yes, dyslexic can be horrible, and I've got an older brother that he was dyslexic, and again, he was dyslexic in the 50s, 60s. So he never they never dealt with it. Oh, no worries. I appreciate you showing up on this. That I think this was a private chat today. I know that there are some people who go back and read these, so but I appreciate your time here and definitely enjoy. Tell the wife and daughter that I said that everyone says hi. But it's still looking good that we're going to be going back probably the end of March. Still haven't heard anything from the consulate or State Department, so at this point, no news is good news. It means they're processing it and things are moving along. But and that's kind of the mode we're in right now. Is we're trying to tie up a bunch of different loose ends, getting ready to go. That was part of the reason for the trip down to Cebuga. Is we knew we had some stuff down there, but we needed to figure out how much and what. And so that's what we did. Is we figured out how much and what we got down there, sorted and separated that, made some room. Mama and Papa said that they would make us some room in a storage area that they've got. So we got some storage bins and took a couple down and realized we're probably going to need 4 or 5 more down there. And we're just going to put everything in plastic storage bins, throw some desiccant in it, and call it good, zip tie closed, and see them next February. That reminds me, next trip down, I need to take our labeler. We're trying to come up with trying to separate everything so that the bins are packed with like items, clothes, scuba gear, whatever, and work that way. And so we're going to label the box what the main component in it is. I skipped a group. I'm sorry. Sunshine. We came up with a new game plan for. I think I don't know. that we had some interest from a party that we decided that if they're going to go through with it, we will, and we'll just see. So, uh, I'm out of coffee, and I don't have any water with me today. So, sunshine is being disposed of one way or another. Uh, Rusi is being disposed of. We got a guarantee on that one. I know how that one's going to get taken care of. The appliances we've got here, we've talked with Mama Papa, we've talked with her brother and sister-in-law, and they're going to kind of divvy them up and decide what they want amongst themselves. Everything is heading to Cebu. Her and I are going to go through and we're going to practice pack. We've got all the bags that we want. One of them I need to deal with. The humid and slightly salty air here is just horribly corroded the brass zipper pull. Their plastic zipper, the teeth are plastic, so that's not a problem. But the zipper pull is brass, and it's horribly corroded. And so I'm gonna do some research on how to remove corrosion from brass without destroying it, and see if I can get them to work. If I can, we've got another big bag. If I can't, we've got a bag that's garbage and it can't be zipped closed. And I got a couple of ideas that might work, might help, but I'm just gonna have to play with it and see what I can do. I may try some vinegar. That's acidic enough that it may do it, but I'm worried about it making the bag smell horrible. So I don't know. I may apply vinegar with just a Q-tip or a toothbrush and just kind of clean it that way and see how well I can get it to clean. If I can get it to free up enough to where I can get some abrasive on the plastic teeth to finish cleaning the inside of the zipper pull. I've got a couple different ideas. I've searched YouTube and they've got a few ideas, typically with brass teeth as well. So I'll have to see if I can do something along what the lines of what one of them suggests. I'm going to go for another 7 minutes, and if I've still got no viewers, I'm actually going to end it a little bit early today. That'll let me get some things done and go meet up with a friend of mine to help him with some visa paperwork. But we're going to practice packing and get everything that we want to take into a bag. Get the 5 bags packed, weighed, and make sure that we've got everything there with, well within weight restrictions, and just deal with it that way. And then anything that doesn't fit in those, we're going to head down to Sabunga or give away or dispose of somehow. Most everything that we've got is going to go to Sabunga and just be given to family. There's going to be a couple things that we may ask the landlord if he wants us to just, or is willing to allow us to just leave. But after we get everything practice packed into the bags, we're just going to accept that that's what's there. 1 or 2 of the bags we may just leave packed. And that there's enough stuff that's going back that we don't use frequently that for 3 or 4 weeks could be left in a bag and just brought out as needed. It's like I've got some one advantage of a mobile camera, that these storage units, that they work great for here. But obviously I'm not going to be able to bring them back with me to the States. I'll get that adjusted better a little bit later. I'm not going to be able to bring them to the States. And so we may use them for storage down in Sabunga. We may just give them to put that as part of stuff that we're giving to family for their use, for their giving it away. And so, and it's a lot of stuff like that. The table behind us, that table is going to be given to the family down there. That Jem and Chacha are building a house so that they've got a place. That they've got 2 kids now, and so that way they've got a place of their own that they can deal with everything their own. So that they need some, they need some stuff. May buntag ka, Daniel. May gabi, Daniel. That you showed up just in time. Yeah, 40 minutes. If I hadn't had anybody else come in, I was going to actually end it a little bit early today. But and it's not uncommon for me to get, especially on these that I do not post in advance. It's not uncommon for me to get people to come in late. Yeah, now I skipped a groove again. Jem and Chacha, that they're building a house down in Sabunga. Cindy's brother and sister-in-law. That they've got a 4-year-old son now and a newborn, and so that they're starting a family and such, and kind of do that. They want to get out on their own. They're still living with Mama Papa. They spent a little bit of time over at her parents' house, and just felt the need to, that we're starting a family. We need to do this, and so it'll be kind of a blessing that way that they'll have some stuff to get started with. So this is actually really good timing. That kind of rambled on about a bunch of different stuff. Oh yeah, that's right. I've been watching that pretty intently too. I'm kind of seeing, that movement's going around the world at this point. That it's getting multiple different countries. I guess the U.S. is beginning to start their own as well. And I guess a lot of truckers at the various border crossings are intentionally plugging up border crossings. It's amazing to see. And at this point, at least the one in Canada is not just truckers, it's farmers, it's everybody that's joining it. That I've seen everything from tractors to horse-drawn, horse and buggy to farm tractors. It is, and I don't mean this in a negative way, but sadly more so than the American flag. And but I think that's what it took for the world to wake up and realize the situation, that it's just gotten off the deep end. Somebody was kind of joking around the other day that the Filipinos need to do a jeepney version. That Gwen and the IATF are still duking it out. That as of March 1st, that she wants to open Cebu to anybody. If you come in vaccinated, cool. Y'all have fun, go on about your business. If you come in unvaccinated, cool. Just chill for a minute. Go do your, go to quarantine, do your test. After the 3rd or 5th day, if you still test negative, Cool. Go on about your business. I've seen that in a couple of these other convoys. Are you back?
Oh, I need to go online. I need to print something and go back there. Hi, everyone. Yeah, interesting. I'll let you know.
You can talk about it. Oh, okay. Government insanity is not limited to just your home country, trust me. Uh, Cindy doesn't seem to be terribly happy with the results of her SSS appointment this morning. Yeah, that was one of the things that I was talking about. Papa and I were going to go down and do a walking live stream today. Going down, we were going to do a tricycat out to the Fil-Am and then a jeepney down to One Pavilion. And Cindy had to go do that SSS appointment, so that kind of took priority. I may try that tomorrow. I may try a live stream, a walking live stream like that tomorrow. As of this point, as of the last time we tried to go in, One Pavilion wouldn't take you in without a Vax card. Papa has one. And so we'll take the jeepneys down because they wouldn't even let you in a parking garage. And with the shape Sunshine's in, they've got a huge ramp. And I do not want to have to stop on that ramp with Sunshine and the transmission issues. Sunshine needs a new transmission. And I don't trust the rebuild here. I've seen too many rebuilt parts that they just clean the outside and make sure everything's spun and appeared to work and said, yeah, it's rebuilt. Look, it's new. And no. So shy of someone that actually has a legit rebuild transmission, I don't know that it's going to get any better, because if you get one that's been out of another vehicle, it's used, there's a reason why it came out of the other vehicle. So that's one sad part here. I plan on I've got a friend of mine that he's going to give me a hand with getting some B-roll footage, and I'm going to do an in-depth review of Sunshine and my experience owning a multi-cab for a year and a half. End all statement on that. I doubt that I would ever get one again, and I would definitely never get one again as a primary form of transportation. If it was if it was a backup or a fun vehicle, I would consider it, but not very long or very hard. There's too many other vehicles here that would fit good into a backup fun vehicle type role that you can get new parts for. You can get everything new, from engine parts to body parts. And because of that reason alone, I probably would never get another multi-cab. When we go back to the States, there's a couple of places that do a lot more with these multi-cab vehicles. There's a couple of places that actually import them from Japan. And so I'm going to start talking with some of them. And I know that K6A engine has been used in other vehicles. That would be, it was used in the Cushman three-wheeled vehicles for you sometimes see in parks or meter maids and stuff like that have. It's also been used in a snowmobile. That the K6A Turbo has been used in a snowmobile, an Arctic Cat snowmobile. So I know that there are parts out there for these things, but I wouldn't know where or how to go about getting them. And so I'm hoping that that one of these places have done enough cross-referencing to where I could at least find mechanical parts. Daniel, what do you mean by what other vehicles would that be? Other vehicles for like fun vehicles here in the Philippines? If that's the question you were asking, this as a backup vehicle, a second vehicle, the Suzuki Jimny looks to be a lot like it could be a lot of fun. That there's a couple of manufacturers that they build jeepneys, and they build jeepneys from traditional automotive parts. That they have a Chevy engine, and that they have a Suzuki engine that's common that you can get parts for. That they have they've got them that have Jeep engines in them. They've got them that have traditional engine and drivetrain that you can get new parts for. One of those could be really cool and fun to have. There's a couple of Toyotas and other Suzukis out there that are a little bit more 4x4 fun and stuff like that. That would be a great fun vehicle if we get to a place that has the time and that has the place that I could work on a vehicle. The stuff like that I enjoy doing myself. And that was part of the reasoning behind Sunshine. Is I enjoyed doing these work, but every other vehicle I've ever had, like the Tamron, that I've seen them back in the States. You can get Haynes and Chilton's manuals. You can get full manuals and everything else for Tamron, a vehicle that's never been sold in the U.S. It may have been imported by privately, but it's never been sold in the U.S. But you can get the manuals and such for it. And so I could get reference and find out little quirks and what this wire is and how this how they managed to make this function. I enjoy MGs, the old MGs. But it wasn't until I got here that I found out that they are remaking an MG badged vehicle. What if I got it as a fun vehicle? I would get one of the older used ones, and I would do that. I would not get a new vehicle as a fun vehicle. Assuming things go on like the way that we're planning, we would probably come back and get a four-door vehicle, whether it's a pickup style or an SUV style or whatever. But we get a nice four-door vehicle that would be for family use when the three of us go out or when we have family with us, which is why we make it a minivan style. And then if we have the time and place, I might get a second vehicle for just me, or primarily me, to go out and have fun with, to go knock around, to go, explore roads. I enjoy going out 4x4 and rock crawling and stuff like that. And I know there's places around here that do that. And so it might be fun to have a second vehicle like that. And if I got one of those, morning, John, how you doing? Or good evening for you, good night for you. Yeah, it's almost 10 o'clock at night for you. So mine could be. Now, Daniel, if you plan it out, and you made comment that you got relatives that own a garage or own a gas station, that they probably will know a very good and a very reputable mechanic. A multi-cab, the van style just might work well for you. But the big thing I would recommend, and this is going to be part of what goes into the 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 review of it is I know a lot of people that have these that are great transportation. They are basically dirt cheap. But we made the mistake of getting one from a builder. And I believe the builder, for whatever reason, this particular model what was one that was really marginal to begin with, and the build quality was flat out horrible. I've met some people that have Ruscos. The other, or well, the major manufacturer rebuilder here in the Philippines. I have known some that have had them and they were great and they absolutely loved them. I've known others that it was was the most horrible piece of junk that they've ever owned. Uh, but there again, you can get decent mainstream vehicles that are used that are slightly older that you do have access to parts to. That you can go down to a dealer and say, hey, I need a new piece. One thing that we've had to rebuild and try to play with like 3 different times, and the dealer won't sell the part. I'm not. And again, this is part of my problem is I don't know that they're saying it won't work. I don't know why. I don't know if it's legit, but you can't get a new PCV valve for it here. And the mechanic we're using is saying that they can't make one to fit, a new one that would fit. And so I don't know. And I don't know enough about the vehicle to know which person is correct. I do know some vehicles that I've worked on in the past. It may have been a Cadillac, but I could go down and buy Chevy parts too. It may have been a Lincoln, but I could go down and buy Ford parts too. And so a lot of times I could buy parts that maybe weren't for the exact make and model, but worked. And I know that there's been times where I could buy a Chevy part and throw it on a Ford, with some, with some redneck engineering, and it worked perfectly fine. That the specs were same, the configuration may have been slightly different, but you could make it work with some ingenuity. Yeah, you ain't lying on that one. There's a YouTube channel that I listen to, Scotty Kilmer. That he's a mechanic, been a mechanic forever. He's been doing this type of stuff since like late 70s, 80s. That he actually did a segment on a TV show that he really enjoyed doing. His parents and his father and grandfather were mechanics. It literally runs in the family. But he just showed a really good, highly rated diagnostic, computer diagnostic, not the code reader, but the actual diagnostic tool, the full reader on it. And it was only $700. A lot of those will run you well into the thousands. He admits the one that he has for the shop was about a $5,000 or $7,000 reader, and this holds its own against what is at the shop. That he was kind of impressed with it, especially for someone that is not a professional. That is making money off of that investment, and that this would actually keep for a small time garage.
Bye-bye. Gotta go back
Can you give me 4 minutes? You can come in and say hi.
Hi, Daniel. Hi, Daniel.
Philippine experience you too.
Hi, John. Philippine experience.
That I'm actually going to end this rather abruptly. Uh, Daniel, you can actually find the VW vans here occasionally. You can find the 60s, 70s vans. I've seen them. They're scarce, but they are out here. You can find the VW Beetles more frequently, and they are here a little bit more. Cindy had to come back, and that was kind of the giggling when she first came in here. She made comment that I guess SSS didn't go quite as well as expected or hoped, and had to come back and do stuff. So, and it's actually getting really close to the 1 hour time limit, anyhow. So from Toad Chip Compound, mabuhay.
I need to apply condemnation.